fishing news is brought to you by Navionics, Okuma, Yozuri, Evinrude, Llama Glass, and the Star Island Yacht Club in Montauk, New York.
Hey there, Toby Lapinski for the New England edition of the Fisherman magazine with this week's web video fishing forecast. First up this week, before I get into the reports, I want to let you know that the ASMFC's Atlantic Striped Bass Management Board has released Draft Addendum 6 to Amendment 6 of the Interstate Fishery Management Plan for Atlantic Striped Bass for public input. Obviously, we've been talking about this a whole bunch on my videos in print, online. You knew this was coming. They have finally scheduled their public hearing. So the Atlantic coastal states from Maine through North Carolina have their meetings scheduled starting in a couple of weeks, running into October. They want to gather public input on Draft Addendum 6. The details of the New England scheduled hearings can be found right now at thefisherman.com. If you're from any of the other states outside of New England, that story also has a link over to the other states where they all can be found. One item of note, however, Massachusetts has its dates set, but they still haven't formally announced the locations. They got a bunch of stuff going on right now, so they're still trying to square up where they're going to have the meetings. So as soon as I get that info, I will update the post, obviously pass that information along here in the videos as well. In the meantime, be sure to make yourself familiar with the draft addendum, which is linked in the news item, because obviously if you attend any of these hearings, you want to know what you're talking about when you make your comments. If you're unable to attend your hearing, public comments may also be submitted via snail mail, fax, if you happen to have one of those dinosaurs laying around, or of course via email. Details again can be found in the link at thefisherman.com. Now you're going to hear this from me over the next couple of weeks until all the meetings are done. I'm going to keep reminding you of the hearings when they come up. When we're the week of a hearing, I will let you know. So I'm going to drill this in your head. You want to get out and let them know your feelings on the changes in the regulations, which are coming next year, so they want to know which way you prefer. And one more thing before I get into this week's reports. Quick little housekeeping item. The September issue of the Fisherman magazine is due out this week. It's available right now at thefisherman.com. It's going to be hitting your mailbox as well as your local newsstands this week, hopefully by the time you watch this video. This is our annual surf fishing issue, one of my favorites of the season, no question about it. I'm a big surf fisherman. You're going to see some great articles in this issue. Let's see, we got a subject: packing your surf bag for the fall, using the Ron Retrieve to make plugs work the right way for you, some tips on fishing a nor'easter, and many more. You're also going to find a brief overview of that recent ASMFC meeting, which led to the aforementioned public hearings that I just talked about, as well as some findings on circle hooks from myself, as well as from New Jersey editor Jim Hutchinson Jr., so give it a look. All right, moving on into the reports. I'm going to start off this week with some of my video contributions. Got 3 of them this week. First up, a video from Tim Moore of Tim Moore Outdoors.
Thanks, Toby. Well, as you can see, I too took delivery on a 2020 Old Town Predator PDL. This is the smoke camo, and I've been just rigging it up this afternoon because there are still a pile of schoolie stripers in Great and Little Bay, up just inside of the New Hampshire coast. I'm hearing reports that there are still some big bass on the ocean front, still on pogies, on some mackerel, and there's still a pile of squid in the Piscataqua River. On the freshwater side of things, Lake Winnipesaukee has just lit up with salmon and lake trout fishing. The salmon bite has been about as good as it gets for the past week, probably, a week to 10 days. That bite has been insane. It's been super good, 35 feet in the morning, trolling, pumpkinhead flies, golden demons, things like that. Anything with orange and yellow in it has been on fire, maybe a little bit of brown. Spoons, Wonder Bread some days, a lot of orange. This time of year is orange, copper orange. It's just a mix of those colors is working really well. 35 feet first thing in the morning, drop down to 45 feet as the sun gets up high, and then as deep as 60 feet. But the water temps are dropping fast. We were at 77, 78 degrees. We are down to 71 degrees in the mornings. So overnight temps are dropping those water temps quickly. It was 45 degrees out when I left my house this morning, so fall is breathing down our necks, but so is fall fishing. I'm looking forward to some really good fishing over the next month as we get into September on Lake Winnipesaukee.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Tim. Glad to have you back on board this week. But before we proceed any further, I want to let you know If you enjoy these videos that Tim has been submitting and you want to watch more of what he has to say, he's got his own channel here on YouTube. It's called Tim Moore Outdoors TV. On this channel, he's got great content on fishing tips, rigging stuff with his kayaks. He's a big-time old-town kayak fisherman. Information on fishing Lake Winnipesaukee, his home waters, everything else. There's a lot on that channel, so once you're done, of course, watching this week's video, give it a search, give it a look, and, of course, a follow. Moving on, keeping with the videos, Dave Boak has checked in this week. He said he was up in Maine doing some ground fishing with his friends, Aaron Evans and Rachel Witt, and they sailed out of York. So it was a roughly hour-long ride out to the fishing grounds, and once they arrived, it was lock and load on pollock, haddock, and of course, throwback cod, as you can't take those in the recreational side right now in the Gulf of Maine. And he said after about 15 minutes of fishing, they had a visitor as the first blue shark of the day arrived, and it grabbed a hold of one of Aaron's fish, as you can see in this little video clip here. That shark expectedly won the short-lived battle, but it was a pretty cool sighting nonetheless for these guys that hadn't run into something like that before, but they didn't want to keep feeding sharks, so they tried to move around a little bit, but unfortunately the sharks just kept finding them, but nonetheless they got into a lot of fish. Lost about 9 or 10 to sharks, but they were able to put 80 fish on the boat, only keeping 22 haddock and a couple of big pollock. Everything else was released to be caught again. And then last up on the videos, at least this week, got a video from TJ as he has a report from the East Bay and the surrounding waters in Rhode Island and Massachusetts.
Thanks, Toby. Hey guys, hope everybody's been out there fishing. The fishing's been red hot, lots of bait in the bay, lots of bluefish in the bay. On Saturday, I had a chance to get out on my cousin's boat, and we actually worked our way up the West Passage up to the Harbor of Refuge in search for the bonies, looking for some bonito. We didn't get any, but we did see a lot of boats landing them. There had probably be about 20 to 25 boats on this one school, so it was really hard to actually get close and into the school. But yeah, that's why they call them the fish of 100 casts. We did a lot of casting that day. I mean, the day wasn't a skunk for us because there were some bluefish around. There were tons of schools, the stripers around. So we got into some of that action off of Jamestown, and we also resorted to Plan B on the way in, and did some fluking on the way in, and we did really well right off of Prudence. So it was a good day on Saturday. Monday afternoon, I ventured back out into the bay. Excuse me, into my home waters, and I gotta tell you, there was a school's bluefish everywhere. It doesn't matter where you were. It was like they were like football fields big. Still waiting for the albies to get in here. Hopefully they do, because there is so much peanut bunker. There are some stripers mixed in too, up to 30 inches. I did get one striper, but mainly blues, and some of them are getting bigger. Up to 5 pounds right now. So hey, if you're gonna do some fishing, I think it's only gonna get better. And with this upcoming storm, it might push some albies and some bigger stripers into the bays, so we can catch them. So tight lines, everybody, and we'll catch you next week.
Awesome, thank you very much, TJ. And as he noticed, mentioned, something about the bluefish over in the East Bay, I'm sure you also heard this past weekend was that big bluefish tournament in Long Island Sound, and it produced a massive 41-inch, 21.29 pound bluefish. Was weighed in at River's End in Old Saybrook. That took top honors. That is a mega bluefish. Well, I don't have a photo of the winning angler with the fish. River's End did post this picture right here of the fish with the weighmaster from the tournament on Monday morning. And I think it was something like 12 of the top 20 bluefish entered in the tournament were weighed in at the shop in Old Saybrook. So suffice to say, the big blues have finally arrived here in Long Island Sound. Sticking with bluefish, I received an email from Fisherman subscriber Lisa Wall of Randolph, Vermont, as she was fishing in Vineyard Sound when she hooked into a nice 15-pound bluefish, her biggest chopper to date. Now, Lisa said she released a big bluefish after taking a couple of pictures to commemorate the day on the water with her husband, Marty. Congrats on the nice catch. And then last up, we got some news on the really good inshore thresher shark action, as well as a little offshore note. A few days ago, the guys from Big Game Fishing Rhode Island, they were unable to get out to the tuna grounds like they'd originally planned, so they stayed local and set up a shark slick instead, eventually hooking into a 279-pound thresher, which they landed on a Daiwa Saltiga dogfight, Daiwa Proteus rod, and 80-pound Suffolk. That had to be quite the battle on spinning gear. Congrats to the captain and crew on the day. And then the last note, heard from the guys who were at Southbound Fishing Charters in Connecticut. And they took advantage of a couple of recent weather windows they had, sneaking offshore on 2 occasions. Now, the first trip out produced some really good fishing. They got a couple of big yellowfin tuna and topped it off by a massive pile of mahi, as you can see. Now, I'm sure those guys are still eating some awesome fish tacos from those trips, and I must say I'm quite jealous. But Southbound wasn't done. A couple days later, they went back out. Weren't able to get quite to the canyons where they wanted to, so they got in on that thresher bite, and they boated a fish of 400 pounds. Now, that is quite the shark, and one of the bigger threshers that I've heard landed locally this year. So congrats to everybody on that. All right, well, there you have it. I'm Toby Lapinski for the New England edition of the Fisherman magazine, wishing you tight lines if you head out into the water this weekend.
Win the incredible Steigercraft Evinrude Lowrance Grand Prize Boat Package and more in the Fisherman's 2019 Dream Boat Fishing Challenge. Get the details now at thefisherman.com.